In the shadowed cobblestone streets of a medieval German town, a chilling legend took root. A piper with a magical pipe was hired to rid the town of a terrible rat plague. He played a tune so enchanting that it led the vermin to their watery graves. Yet, his story held a darker secret, a curse born from a profound act of unacknowledged malice: the rat-catcher's piper. This was a curse that didn't harm the body, but slowly consumed the spirit, leaving an unending, hollow indifference where a person's compassion had once resided. Our story begins with Julian Croft, a gifted piper known for his pride and his talent for composing hauntingly beautiful melodies. Julian saw his talent not as a gift, but as a tool for personal glory and financial gain. He scoffed at the locals' warnings of the magical pipe's power, dismissing their fears as primitive superstition. He was determined to use his talent to become the most famous piper in all of Germany, no matter the cost. Julian, in his arrogance, was hired to rid the town of a terrible rat plague. He played a tune so enchanting that it led the vermin to their watery graves. Yet his greatest act of sacrilege was not against the rats, but against a young, innocent girl who, in her naivety, followed the melody to her doom, drowning in the river. Julian, in his arrogance, dismissed her death as a minor detail, a casualty of his own glorious success. As Julian returned home, a subtle, insidious change began to plague him. He found himself with a profound, gnawing internal silence. He would have sudden, vivid flashes of a chilling indifference and a desperate longing for connection. His passions, once so vibrant and full of purpose, now felt frail and distant. He was not physically ill, but spiritually hollow, a ghost in his own life. The true curse of the rat-catcher's piper was a spiritual infection of profound indifference. The rats, in their last moments, had been consumed not just by the water, but by the ultimate injustice of a world that had forgotten their fear. Julian, by mocking their memory, had spiritually connected himself to their torment. The curse was an insidious psychological horror that slowly infected his mind with the same isolation and despair that had claimed their lives, turning him into a living host for the echoes of their final moments. Driven to despair by his own mental decline and the relentless persecution that plagued his life, Julian sought the counsel of a reclusive historian who understood the ancient ways. The historian explained that Julian had not simply made a video. He had committed a spiritual crime. The villagers were victims of immense tragedy, and Julian had violated their memory. The only way to lift the curse was through a profound act of humility and an honest embrace of their suffering. Humbled and broken, Julian made a desperate decision. He returned to the ruins alone. In the dead of night, he knelt in solemn silence, not as a cynic, but as a penitent. He offered a small prayer, acknowledging the injustice of the villagers' fate and the profound arrogance of his own actions. He built a small memorial, a simple cairn of stones, honoring their memory and acknowledging their suffering. As he completed his act of restitution, a profound sense of peace washed over him. The spiritual isolation lifted, and his purpose returned, not as a drive for fame, but as a profound sense of duty to tell the truth. The vengeful spirit of a witch trial victim, its memory finally honored, released its grip. Julian lived the rest of his life not as a celebrated historian, but as a quiet advocate for justice and truth, forever changed by the spiritual battle he had fought. The legend endures as a grim reminder that some curses are not brought by a monster's strength, but by its insidious psychological hold, and that the greatest battles are sometimes fought within the mind itself. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.